Good afternoon. I want to welcome you to another segment of the Jermaine Brown Sports Talk Show. I need to come up with a new name on these shows, but for now, I'll just keep it as is. Today is Sunday, September the 10th, 2023, and I want to talk about the economics of football and why I think Deion Sanders made a mistake going to Colorado. Okay, before I get started, I just want to get myself situated here. All right. All right. Now let's get into this. Now, Deion Sanders basically was at Jackson State last year. And at the end of the prior season, he did one of the unthinkables, or at least in today's time, when he pulled a top 5-star, number one, definitely top 5 recruit in the nation, Travis Hunter, who was dream was to go to Florida State and play for the Florida State Seminoles. His dream was to go to Florida State. And so Deion went into that young man's house and convinced his parents and himself and the young man to, instead of going to Florida State, going to an HBCU in Jackson State, go there, and that he would coach him and take care of him. And the young man and the family trusted him. And that's a good thing to some extent, but you also have to be careful who you put your trust in. But we'll get to that shortly. So Deion upset the apple tree when he decided, when he was able to snag Travis Hunter, whom nobody thought he can get. And what happened was, because see, before last year, really before he even went to Jackson State, Deion was trying to get a head coaching job at a Power 5 school, particularly Florida State, but at a Power 5 school, and nobody wanted him. At least that was what was reported. Nobody wanted him. So he decided, I'm going to go to Jackson State and I'm going to build up that program. And he started building up that program. And even though HBCU games were already on TV, they got more exposure with Deion. Deion built Jackson State into like a national powerhouse for the HBCUs, where now you can make an argument that they could compete not against the Alabamas and the Georgias, the top tier programs in the world of the nation, but they could compete against some other lower tier Power 5 schools. But they were on their way where if they got the right talent, they could compete with the Georgias and the Alabamas of the world. But unfortunately, we never got to see that to come to fruition, because after Deion snagged, should I say, Travis Hunter to Jackson State, it upset the power structure, the power dynamics. Because see, the one thing they feared, because see, integration did a lot of harm to the Black community. And one of the harms it did, because before integration, before we were allowed in schools like Colorado, UNC, Georgia, Alabama, so on and so forth, we weren't allowed in these PWI schools. And PWI means primarily white institutions, for those who don't know. So we only could go to a HBCU school, which is a historically Black college university. And that's where the NFL was getting their talent from. So a lot of your Hall of Famers, and I'm talking about Black Hall of Famers, African American Hall of Famers, come from the HBCUs, because we didn't have the quote unquote privilege of going to these PWIs. So these PWIs got smart and said, well, wait a minute. We got a chance to create $1 billion industry here by snagging these Black players from that storm schools. And that's where integration come into play. Because once integration came into play, now they go and they getting those top tier talents that would normally go to an HBCU. They're now going to the PWIs, the Florida States, the Alabamas, the Georgias, the so on and so forth. But who are they taking the talent from? The HBCUs. So the HBCUs are getting the one half a star, 1 star, 2 star, maybe a 3 star recruit, but they weren't really getting too many 4 and 5 star recruits. And which right now it's the same in both basketball and football, but we're going to just stick to football at this time because but the theory still applies to basketball as well. So it's like interchangeable. Now that being said, so when Deion was able to get a 5 star recruit like Travis Hunter to go to Georgia, I mean, not Georgia, sorry, to go to Jackson State, it was only a matter of time before more 4 and 5 star recruits started going to Jackson State. And so then now the structure said, well, wait a minute, we can't have that. We can't have that. This is a problem. Because why? If they start going now to the Jackson States and the Hamptons and whatever, Tennessee State, because that's where Eddie George is coaching at. If they start going to these the HBCUs, they're taking them away from us. And we can't have that because now they're going to be money makers. See, this is again the economics of football. And see, Deion, when he was doing his interviews, he always said, I don't need the money. Now, if he needed the money, then I could understand the move to Colorado because Colorado could pay what Jackson State couldn't. They're paying him $5 million a year. Jackson State can't do that on a per year annual basis. They don't have the kind of budget that these PWIs have. They don't have the infrastructure the same way the PWIs have. Now, education-wise, they do, but from an athletic standpoint, they just don't. Okay, they don't have the boosters the way the PWIs have. It's a night and day difference. But I can see, like I said, if he needed the money, then I can totally understand the move of going from Jackson State to Colorado. But if you are Deion Sanders prime time, you was getting enough exposure at Jackson State. Now, I'm not rooting against Deion. But I didn't like the move, and I'm going to tell you why, of going to Colorado. They would say, Jermaine, well, why are you hating on him for bettering himself? Isn't it capitalist? Isn't this a capitalist society or a capitalist country and all that other stuff? Yeah, but see, here's the thing. Deion is still working for someone. Deion is helping bring in revenue. Where he was helped bringing in revenue for Jackson State, he was able to upgrade their facilities. He was bringing in a lot of revenue for Jackson State. Now, by him switching and going to Colorado, a PWI school, he's bringing in massive revenue for them. But all he's getting out of the deal is $5 million per year. So let's say it's a 5-year, $25 million deal. Okay, let's just say, or however long the deal is. But so let's say, but he's got to wait 5 years to get that full 25 million. But Colorado done made that back in less than a year. Just think about that. They're making tens and hundreds of millions of dollars off the name of Deion Sanders. Colorado's benefiting. How was Deion really benefiting other than more money in his bank account that he said he didn't need? That's the question that I have. Instead of building up your own institution, you're building up their institution. And a lot of people hated on Skip Bayless for bringing that point up to Shannon Sharpe. Because Skip Bayless was saying the same thing. That it was a mistake for Deion to go from Jackson State to Colorado. Not that Colorado is a bad school or bad program or whatever, but what he was saying was stay at an HBCU and build them up, build up your own rather than building someone else's. Because why? The PWI has gotten richer off Deion, then Deion is making off of this deal. They're using his name to make them rake in hundreds, tens and hundreds of millions of dollars. Not billions, sorry, millions of dollars. They've been now on TV twice in a row. Do you know the last time Colorado can say they've been on TV twice in a row? At least over 2 decades. Colorado, it was hard to get them on TV once, let alone twice in a row. And they're going to get more TV deals and stuff like that. Because why? They're the hottest new thing. They are the talk of not only college football, but of all sports. And that's breaking in a lot of revenue for Colorado, not for Deion, for Colorado. So when we talk about capitalism, it's who's benefiting more from whom. Deion is not owning the institution. Deion is not running the institution. He's working for the institution. But where that money could at least went to the HBCU, and he would have stayed there and kept building that up. Excuse me. He's building up the Colorado program. And that's the problem that I have. I'm sorry. I just do. Now, again, I'm not rooting against Deion. I want him successful because, again, at the end of the day, I've always been a fan of Deion. That's just the reality. I've always been a fan. But this move bothers me. But, I mean, again, I'm happy that they're winning. But this move bothers me. I'm going to just be honest because I see the bigger picture. And guess who gets hurt by this? The HBCUs. Because what it is now it's going to be a bigger challenge to continue getting those 4- and 5-star recruits. Because there aren't many Deion Sanders out there. And this is no disrespect to the coaches that are in the HBCUs. But again, when it talks about trying to recruit and get those guys, see, this is where the HBCUs really get hurt. And guess what? And then his son, the quarterback, Shedeur Sanders, Travis Hunter, and Shiloh Sanders, those three, and there may be more, but those are the three the big name guys who came from Jackson State. And they've already proven that they can play here at the Power 5 schools, at the Power 5 level. But I didn't need to see them here to prove that. I already knew that they were capable of. Talent is talent, folks. And if you have it, you can play anywhere. HBCU, Power 5, it doesn't matter. And guess what? The NFL will find you. Because if you're good, you're good. And just to give you now you say, oh, well, they'll get hurt in the draft and stuff like that. It didn't hurt Steve Aaron McNair. Steve Aaron McNair came out of Alcorn State, and historically HBCU, historically black college, small college, Alcorn State. He got drafted, was it 1 or 2 overall? Tennessee Titans. And you know why he's not in the Hall of Fame today? Because of Jeff Fisher. Fisher took the air out of Steve Aaron McNair. Matter of fact, he's now Steve Ground McNair because that's basically all they did was run the football. And occasional passing, but he took the air out of Steve Aaron McNair. That's the reason why Steve Aaron McNair is not in the Hall of Fame. Other than that, he would be in the Hall of Fame. He was a damn good player. And he came from a HBCU. So it didn't hurt him. It didn't hurt. And I'm talking about that's the quarterback position. Michael Strahan, a defensive end. It didn't hurt him to come from an HBCU. And Shannon Sharp, who I like, but I'm disappointed in, he put down the HBCU, though. He made his name from an HBCU. He went to Savannah State. And he, by his own words via text, if Georgia or Georgia Tech or one of those PWIs had called me, I would have went there instead of the HBCU. Now, he was being honest, but that was not what you, sometimes being honest is not a good thing. Sometimes being honest is not a good thing. That was one he should have kept to himself. And then once the heat came down on him and people came at his head, so to speak, then he cleaned it up. But it was too late. It was as if he was bashing the HBCU experience. And if you think those PWIs give a damn about you, you'll find out, no, you're just a cog in the wheel. They're there to have you dribble a basketball or throw a football or catch a football. That's what they have you there for. If it's not for that, they don't want you in their schools. They made that clear. So you're benefiting them more than, and here's the thing, for many years, they didn't even want you getting paid. Dabo Swinney, the coach of the Clemson Tigers, at one point, he was one of the top coaches in the country, being on the same level as a Nick Saban, or in the same being talked around in the same breath. Now he's fallen off. Why? Because in his mind, these players should not be getting paid. Though he's making a lot of money. I think maybe, was it 20 mil a year or something, 10, 15, 20 million a year? And yet he doesn't want you making any money? Which means you are working for free. You are basically a slave. And the only thing is you're not in chains and being whipped. But the reality, or you're not in bondage, physical bondage. Let me put it that way. But they don't really want you getting paid. They fought against it. So, but they have no problem taking that salary. They're making certain they're getting paid, and they're benefiting off what? Your work. They're benefiting off your labor. Colorado's benefiting off the name of Deion Sanders more so than Deion is benefiting from Colorado. Even Max Kellerman, and I like Max. T.O. one time said that he's blacker than Stephen A. Smith. And oh, that pissed Stephen A. Smith off. But you know what? But it was the truth. Even Max Kellerman said Deion got underpaid. He said this months ago when he first signed the deal. He said Deion shortchanged himself. People who understand finance knows he got a raw deal. While we're sitting up there celebrating, oh, he got a $5 million a year deal. Oh, he's getting to go to a PWI, this, that, and the other. They're sitting there laughing at him saying, hey, you shortchanged yourself. Because for the amount of money that Colorado's about to make, you're getting the short end of the stick. And is that really good economics? Just because you got a pay raise? Because let's just call it what it is. A pay raise, a glorified pay raise. That's all you did. Now, we're all workers and cogs in the system. I mean, I work for the man or the system, so, and I get it. But I don't have Deion's influence, his wealth. I don't have Deion's, I'm not in his shoes. Because if I'm going to work for somebody, if I was in Deion's shoes, I'd rather be helping my community than helping others. That's all I'm trying to say. I want to thank you for watching this show. Have a nice day.